General Service Committee will come to order. Privilege of the chair, committee members, and board of supervisors. We have discussion on snow and ice control and mowing agreements. Is there any discussion?
Is it as a resolution? Or you just
No, we need a resolution.
It's on as a discussion.
Oh, so we're not looking to put a resolution up tonight?
Right.
So this would be a discussion to reduce the amount?
I like it.
I don't know, Paul was supposed to be here tonight. Talk on
That must
this.
mean he wants to do.
Don't be foolish. We didn't want it at all.
Shane?
The only thing I'm going to say here is that what we'll do, if we don't have a resolution, we're going to come up to the fact that the town budgets are going to be up, because we should be starting to work on our budgets now. And if we don't have a resolution for this, it's going to put us all in a spot with the town budgets where we're on an open end as our budgets go into effect, especially our tentative. Secondly, this is a change with both agreements combined, which is something we need to be clear on. So I would actually like to see a resolution, even if the resolution goes forward with blanks in it to the full board, I don't care about that. But I would like to see a resolution here to put this on, because once we pass August, we're in September, and while we're in September, the towns have to be on their budgets because the tentative has to be turned in by October 1st. If we wait till September, there's a possibility we won't have a resolution by October 1st, which will leave all the towns with a gap in their budget.
Tom?
Well, earlier this year, I brought up the possibility of, for this year, that the towns, because we had a decent year last year, not charging for a certain portion of roads. I asked that the town supervisors go back to their respective bodies and see what they thought of that. And most rejected the thought. And I don't have issue with that, because you have to think outside the box. You have to try to bring some thoughts to the table that might be able to help us. I also said during that point in time, there was a time back a few years ago that these were $3,000. I think we're at $3,000 a mile. I'm not in favor of reducing the amount per mile. I was in favor of not charging for a certain amount of miles, and if that happened to be 10 miles out of my road for the year, that was fine. Nobody liked the idea. I'm not crying sour grapes over it. I'm just saying, I personally feel the reduced per mile, the amount per mile should not be reduced. It should stay where it's at. If you want to do anything for a year, you just don't charge for X amount of miles. It took too long to get the mileage where it is today. And we all know that when we have the winters that we have, we do eat up the money. And I'm just not in favor of reducing the amount per mile. I'm in favor of saying, hey, I won't charge for a certain amount for this year only. Because I'm telling you, boys, once you go backwards, you count on your 9 county legislators to bring it back up. Or don't follow the roads. So, I mean, well, I'm all in favor of working to try to help the county out. I threw something out there this year that I'll stand by. What I'm saying to my fellow supervisors is don't take us down. Give it back, don't take us down. And I would put the resolution up tonight and fill it in with the numbers.
Dominic next.
I have my hand up before you. You're on, since you're on the computers, you don't have a back to this.
Yeah, I got it.
Huh?
It's absurd.
Yeah. You got the numbers on the back of yours? Well, you did give a reduction.
You did.
Because the snow rate is going from $52.50 to $350 a mile.
Right.
That's
It's reversed.
No.
That's snow.
No.
Under the agreement at the rate of
It's
$350
reversed, the way it's wrote out here,
County
it is
highway for
reversed.
snow removal.
It is reversed and it's wrong.
It's reversed.
Right.
It's a mistake, it's a typo, is all it is.
Mowing is $350 and snow is.
Yeah,
It's printed.
it's a,
Well, wait a minute.
It's
and it can't go that way.
I have
That's just
questions.
absolutely
I'm
foolish.
next. Question.
Thank you, Chair.
Where are these numbers determined?
I can explain that.
Why isn't it $346.22 per mile? I'm just asking a question. Where do these numbers come from?
I can explain it.
It's contract, right?
I can explain the mileage when it gets to me. That's something that's small.
That's what I'm asking. There's numbers in here, and I like to know where numbers originate from. What's the formula? I mean, let me see the mathematical formula, how this is determined.
Shane, can you help me out on this?
I can explain to it when it's my turn to talk.
All right, go right ahead. Just explain the mathematics. I want to see the formula.
At one time, I'll separate it out. The snow contract had been basically, a long time ago, someone had decided how much it was, and it stayed and went up and down barely, and when we got to the 3,000 or 325, whatever it was, no one could really justify the number. At one point in there, the supervisor sat in the desk you sit in, screamed that nobody could give, Supervisor Schulman screamed that nobody could give the numbers. I actually took a road in my town and broke it down for the miles the road ran and broke all the numbers down on what it cost per mile to plow the road. I don't believe anybody else in the room did that, and gave her all the information. Also compared that to the state rental rates on equipment. It's how we were reimbursed for a lot of things we do. On the mowing contract, we were paid lane miles before. The mowing contract was redone and regenerated, and a lot of the towns, some of the towns took a loss on how they do it. Some of the towns went up. The mowing rate came out of another form. It was reduced per mile by the lane mile, so it's a single lane mile mowing rate. We actually don't get paid anymore to mow additional. We only get paid by a single rate. So in my case, we mowed pretty wide. In Town and Root's case, they always mowed wide and didn't claim it. We mow pretty wide because of the county woods and stuff. So there's sometimes it takes slight loss if we keep doing it. But the plowing rate itself, when the argument started and went over and over about we pay too much for county removal, we're contracted to maintain county roads. We're contracted to maintain county roads so we don't get in a lawsuit. We're contracted to maintain, this is very simple wording in this, but we do snow and ice control so the roads are clear. We're called as the town superintendent or whoever's foreman is called at any moment in the middle of the night when the sheriff determines the roads need to be maintained or if they find an issue. And this misnomer that we're making a fortune on snow removal on a heavy year is just that. It's a misnomer. It doesn't happen. There are towns that do less than other towns. There's towns that plow less. There's towns that have less. There's a couple of towns that have high wind, high ice. There's a couple of towns that don't. But if we take the contract as it is and we place a dollar figure in it or keep the current dollar figure, and then a town was to decide not to charge for that, that's one thing. If we write a contract with a lower number in it because we decide not to charge for 3 months and then we come into December, we have an issue. So the contract itself shouldn't have a variant number. The contract should have a number in it that's a fair and equitable number. It's taken us a long time to reach that. We don't make money off of it. I don't know any town supervisor that can really sit, if there is, that can really sit down and say how much money they're making off of it. I'd be shocked. We don't buy equipment with the money. In my case, we bond for equipment. It's a separate line on my tax. It's not part of this in any way. It doesn't cost me this much money to maintain every road in my town. It costs me this much money and more to maintain county roads. We're to the point with cost and everything else that if we cut this contract amount, we have to cut our services. And when you're in a rural area and you cut your services and most of your people go to work at 2, 3, 4 in the morning, that's when the complaints scream, and that's what's happened in the rural area. People complain. If we don't plow fast enough this year, a lot of people are saying that this was an easy year. Well, I can tell you for a fact in the town of Charleston what this was an ice year. Because it was a lighter snow year, at nighttime there was more humidity and there was more black ice, and in the lower areas they covered ice more. And it was county roads, not town, because in my case a lot of town roads are seasonal roads and they aren't maintained in the winter. They're only maintained partially in the winter. In the summertime we do them all. So what we have is a contract that gives us the ability to maintain the roads for Montgomery County in the town of Charleston. This contract covers the other towns to do the same exact issue. There's issues in this room. Dominic will tell you that roads need to be given back to the town. We'll still have to maintain them as towns, but that'll change its mileage. I don't have any of those. Thomas said the same thing. There's roads that should be given back to the town. That's an issue with his town. But also, we have to go back to our town boards. We are not the only person involved here. We have a town board and a highway superintendent as well. That town board and the highway superintendent are what operates our budget. Our town board does. This every year becomes this big thing between the city and the town. The city supervisors, some, not all, will say that we shouldn't be paying for a snow contract. The town supervisors will say, we maintain the county roads. If you want to answer this and never pay for a snow contract again, the county should buy snow plows and maintain their own roads, and we'll go back to maintaining our town roads. We can reduce staff. But the fact is, we maintain the county roads. We maintain it, and part of the money comes out of state rental rate on equipment, part of the money comes out of actuals. We maintain these roads, and if you can find a better way to do it without just saying, cut the cost, then prove it to us. Because we still maintain these roads all winter long. If we get lucky and have a light year, we might, but we still have 3 more months of winter coming. And then we have another spring coming, and then we have another winter coming within that contract. But those numbers are figured out by state rental rate, by fuel cost, and by the actual usage of some of the towns. Not all towns want to report it. I have. I've sat down and worked those numbers plenty. So I'm an advocate for us getting the money because it is the responsible way to pay for the maintenance of the county roads.
Next.
Well,
You got you?
Yeah.
Shane's right. I didn't personally go work numbers, but my highway superintendent did, and Greg's highway superintendent, I might be wrong, but ask Billy.
Bill did.
Bill said, and prior to it happening, I don't believe it wasn't like anybody got together. And they weren't exact numbers, but this was a ballpark number of what was they had come up with. I didn't personally do it. But, and I've said it before, and I agree with Dominic. There's roads out there that I believe just do not and should not belong to the county. And that's how you're going to battle this problem, is to tackle the real issue of what should and shouldn't be. It isn't about the, I agree with Shane 100%. It's not about the number or the cost. I think the number's close to where it should be or whatever. It's the ownership of the roads. And as I said before, we had a decent year. Shane might disagree with me on this as far as, because all the towns are a little different. You know, you could go to Salt Springville and they got to go out with their trucks because it's the ice, it's the water. They still got to run by the roads. But, you know, if we could agree on doing something, I don't think that the numbers should be diminished. I think that if you're going to try to help the county out in the form of not charging for X amount because we had a decent year, even with a decent year, you know, go outfit one of those trucks, it's $250 grand. $250,000 to buy one of those trucks. Huh? Try to buy a used truck and go out there. You know what I mean with it. They'll work like that. Anyway, I'm not going to beat it up. I just wanted to explain where the numbers came from. It wasn't just.
It wasn't just me.
You did it as a supervisor.
Yeah, but I was
My
highway
guy
superintendent.
and Billy did it.
Yes, it did.
To clarify, so we don't have any misunderstanding, I did not want to make this, as may have been implied, a city-town issue. I'm trying to get away from that, okay?
Well,
But, excuse me?
it's not your fault.
Okay. I saw these numbers, and I like to know where numbers come from. I asked that before on another number here. I didn't receive an answer. Now what I'm asking for is, I was given an answer. I've talked to him before about it. He just was talking about his town. Now you're telling me your highway superintendent did this. So I have a better analysis of what's going on. That's why I asked. I mean, 5250 could be 5. 350 could be 325. I mean, you want to know where is it? You're just putting numbers in here? So I want to know. We are responsible. I'm responsible for what's going on here also. Maybe a small percentage here, 6% or whatever, 6.2 or 3% or whatever here. Different with the weighted votes. Concerning one person, I want to know where the money's going. We're $4 million down. You know, you had brought up that point several meetings ago about, and I guess people went back to their towns and they said no about the change in the roads. I think maybe the planning department is working on something, I'm not sure, as far as the roads, et cetera. But it's something you got to look at everything, including mowing grass. So it's just a question, and I will continue to ask these questions when I see a number I don't understand. So, but I'm not trying to create a controversy here. I'm sick and tired of the city-county issues all the time. This is a county.
I agree.
City, town, whatever you want to say. Villages, whatever. You're a county. You're representing the county.
Ted?
Yeah, I don't want to create a city-town issue either. I'm here to represent taxpayers of all of Montgomery County. But here's where we're at. Now, Tom's idea was mentioned months ago. Nobody's moved on it. All right? So at some point, budget time is going to come, and either we're going to lay off to close a budget gap, 50 or 60 employees, or we're going to override tax caps at 15%, or we've got to come up with some belt tightening. I personally would love to drive a Mercedes. I can't do that, so I drive a Jeep. All right? I would love to have new equipment at my house, but I can't afford it, so I tighten my belt. And it's time that we all take a real hard look, inner look, to how you're going to tighten your belts in the towns, whether it's in the city. All right? We need to really make some cuts. And I don't think anybody's suggesting that, to send these to the poorhouse. I had mentioned earlier in the year that I thought $400 or $500 a mile reduction could save $200,000 and save 4 or 5 jobs. Chairman Walters pointed out to me that at that type of reduction, it really would devastate his town budget because they rely on that. I didn't understand all the minutia of every town, and I'm learning. But we still need to look at this in a reasonable manner and bring some cost savings back to your taxpayers. All right? We cannot continue to keep funding at the county level, and some of the towns are very healthy, some aren't. But we got to come up with some type of cost-cutting savings here, or the day of reckoning is coming very quickly. That's all I have, Chair.
Shane?
I'm gonna do 2 things. First, I'm gonna make a statement, then I'm gonna ask for a resolution to be worded to accept a contract with blanks in the dollar line. The taxpayer issue. In a rural area, especially extremely rural area, the taxpayer sees a couple things. The taxpayer sees the highway all summer when they go to work, whether they live on town road or county road or live on a state road. That's what they see. In a town like mine, and I'm just using it for example because it's my town, I have 2 major state roads. The people who live on state roads see maximum salt use and state plows all the time. They pull out of their driveway, they drive a clean road right to the county line where the Schoharie end of the DOT doesn't plow as good, and they fight their way down the hill. And then they get on Route 20 and then go like crazy. But those that live on a county road are a majority of the taxpayers in my town. And those taxpayers are paying a good chunk of money for their property. And what they get for that county tax, as being a resident in a town where most of them go to work. I'm not the highest senior population in Montgomery County anymore. I don't have a high usage of DSS money. I will as people start losing their jobs. But what I do have is a high percentage of people that both people go to work, their kids get on a school bus. This contract is what affects them more than anything. Because in a town like mine where most of the people go to work at night, these people go out at night. And if we cut the budget where we come to the point where we run out of money because we have a heavy year, which we've had, we are in a position now where we will stop plowing. We'll have to reduce our plowing to minimum. And then the taxpayers that this budget, this contract directly affects is what these people pay for. And when you're in a rural area, you pay taxes for a very little use. And this is one of the biggest driver of being in a rural area is the fact that your road is maintained. The biggest thing that happens to a person who lives in a rural area is that they can get out and get to work in the middle of the wintertime. And now with more and more people working nights, it's important to be able to get out at 2 o'clock. It's important to be able to get out at 3. And most of your major road work, as far as snow removal, is done early hour morning. Most of your snow and your ice accumulates during the night, not during the day. And this is why we end up plowing and cleaning and salting more in the night than we do in the day, which also affects our overtime use and everything else. But we still have to plow to make it. Used to be very simple in the rural area. There was 2 times you saw the plow. You saw the plow when the milk truck went down the road, and you saw the plow before the school bus. Those days are over. There is no more twice with a snow plow. Now the plow runs every other hour, and they have to maintain these roads. And this is what your taxpayers are paying for. And you have to realize that sometimes when you say cut it, cut it, cut it, this is where we look out for our taxpayer, because their tax dollar goes here. And when that road isn't plowed, they say, where are my taxes going? They don't care if it's going to a mandate. They don't care if it's going to DSS in the long run, as long as they get out to work. And when they don't get out to work, that's when they scream. That's when they feel like their hands are tied. As far as that mowing goes, let the weeds grow on the side of the road and see what happens at every stop sign. That's what happens, and we try to maintain it, and we are maintaining, but there is a cost there. And if the burden is shifted right to the towns, you're just shifting the tax dollar higher to these people who are paying it now. What I'm asking is that the snow contract be fair, but what I do want is a resolution, to form a resolution to accept the snow contract. And I would like that the lines be kept blank until the full board meeting. I would ask that the numbers be put in, but we'll haggle them too much here, and it's getting late. And I think if we put the resolution through with blanks, and it can go quicker. So I would like to have a resolution that states that the board, that we accept the contract for the agreement for control of snow and ice and grass and brush. And I believe we've been doing it a 2-year period. The only thing I would like in here is the January 1st, 2013 to January 31st, or December 31st, 2014. So it stays on a 2-year agreement. And then the section 10 would have to say a period of 2 years.
14 or 15?
Second on that.
We've changed it so it doesn't run over. So it'd be 13. So the full year of 13 to the end of 14, because we don't do the overlap from December over. Now we do
end
it.
of 14.
It's for 2 years. It's the beginning of 2013 to
Calendar
the
year.
end of 2014.
2 calendar years.
2 calendar years. We used to do it the other way. We don't do it that way anymore because it's too confusing. So now it goes for a 2-year period. This would be for January 1st, 2013 to December 31st of 2014. Still the 2-year contract, but not with the overlap monthly like it was, because that was just too confusing. That's why we made the change at the last contract.
Do I have a second on it?
I'll second it. I also have something I'd like to discuss.
Okay.
There's another component to the DPW budget that really never gets talked about. You continually hear about the money that's transferred to the towns to maintain the county roads, but we never talk about the component of the county funds that are utilized to move snow in the villages and in the city. When our DPW guys are mobilized with their 10-wheelers, with their 6-wheelers, go in and clean streets.
All winter long.
And so I'm comfortable taking a $500 per mile reduction, but I think we should also be fair and ask the commissioner to go through his budget and remove a commensurate percentage of his budget that would be utilized for removing snow within the villages in the city. You want to talk fair? That's fair. That's what I have to offer. Thank you, Chair.
Tom?
See, now, to me, in the spirit of cooperation, and this is a contract, but in the spirit of cooperation for the whole county, as Michael so eloquently puts it, we are one county. Why aren't we sitting down and talking about the redistribution of sales tax
I was going to just ask.
amongst the whole county, and you don't have to talk about this contract?
Can we get the most?
We will be.
Can we get the most?
We're going to get the most.
okay.
We'll get the most.
We're talking budget issues.
We're talking a contract that has to be in place.
Well, I'm just saying.
The reality is that we don't have enough votes to override the 2% cap. What are you fooling around for?
Right.
You know what I mean? What you got is $4 million shortfall and massive cuts.
Right.
And nobody is going to be spared.
Still need
So
that.
forget about it. Let's get on to most.
Still need a contract. Well, I offered up amendment, I had a second.
On that.
Yes, sir.
And why don't we wait till that until we're in the middle of the budget, and then you'll start to rethink about what you want to cut, because you've
I
already
got a
signed a
motion, and I
contract.
got a second, with pleasure of the board. Move it.
Committee. Under committee.
Next thing
Well, I
on
mean, I
the
was like make-believe.
countywide cell phone plan has been put on the back burner. And then we got other.
Yeah, I asked under other that we have a discussion of most, I was hoping it was on the agenda, but I might have missed putting it up. We had a meeting here, if you don't mind me explaining, Herbie, we had a meeting,
Go ahead.
and we said we needed to have a decision from the committee on most. I believe we need to, I actually believe this is the only thing we need. I think we need to go around the room with everybody in here and have everybody in here say yes or no to most in 2014. I believe that's an answer we need to come forward with right now. The county planning department has also already put in place, Ken, we've already got, because I asked them to hold it off for the solid waste plan. So that can be started with the planning and the economic development, but what we need is a clear head count from what's left in this room of where we want to be with most in 2014. And I'm okay with just going around for each person and say yes or no. Do we want to end it in 2014 when the agreement ends? Or do we want to think about anything else?
Will that stay up in court?
We have to come out with a decision.
Yeah.
And that's a simple decision. If we all know we're on the same page, then we can go on. And that's what we need. We need a clear picture from this room what we're doing, and we need to do that.
Can I ask a question?
I'm not on the committee.
I'm not on the committee
Can I ask
here.
a question?
Still need this answer. Committee or not, we still need the answer.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, you can ask a question.
What, if you wish to respond, what have you, according to the chairman, what have you done concerning a plan or anything with those?
Who are you talking to?
I'm talking to Ken.
Ken?
Planning department.
I've asked
We
them to hold
sent
on
a
for next month.
resolution to,
Gotta talk about,
to start the solid waste plan for the county.
Okay.
and how far along are
We didn't, well, we don't.
I asked them to put it up next month.
you? What's it?
No, I mean, that's why we're waiting for a decision from.
I asked them to put it on for next month after we did this discussion this month.
No, you've answered my question.
So you're waiting for us to even go out for other options? To investigate other options, yes or no, or is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
we have to have a solid waste management plan.
Of course,
in place.
of
And-
course, by now. Last year.
2014?
Right, but you have to understand the time frame involved associated with that when you have to go through DEC and
Right.
they have to be with you every step of the way when you guys are developing it. I mean, we can't wait until middle of 2013
Right.
to decide we're not going to do most of the next plan. It's not going to work.
John?
It may not have to happen as quickly as that. I believe that DEC potentially could allow you to operate under MOSA's solid waste plan, which expires, I believe, in 2017. 16? End of 16. So you could approach DEC. Obviously, you gotta have a plan before you go to DEC and say, we want to work under their swamp. You're gonna have to formulate a plan and say to them, this is our plan, but we need time. We'd like to work under MOSA's current swamp. And that may be something they're amenable to.
The swamp or else harm?
Yeah, solid
Yeah,
waste.
it's a solid waste.
Solid waste management plan.
She was wondering whether or not she should write it. It's similar to a swamp.
We need a decision
So
now.
there is an opportunity to work under that, but you really do need to answer the
We need to
question.
st-
Are you gonna
I forget.
stay with MOSA post 2014, or are you gonna get out?
We need to have this
I
call.
have Dominic next.
You know, we had this discussion,
No, it's 9:30.
huh?
It's 9:30.
We had a discussion a month ago. You know what my answer is? Same as it was a month ago. We have to get out. Is Schoharie County gonna have equal representation with us? Once Otsego County's out?
Yes.
Has Otsego County given the date when they're gonna get out?
Yes.
They think they're gonna do
No, they passed their resolution.
they think they're gonna get out.
All right?
April of
Get out,
2015.
full agreement.
That's what I think.
And the thing is, do we have any resolution on ownership of the landfill? No. We need to get out.
I felt the same.
Well, they just made an opinion, that's all I want.
That's it.
Well, I vote.
I wanna go around the room.
Get out.
John?
My recommendation, if it truly is your intent to get out, that you need to approach your assemblyman and your senator, you want home rule, and you want to amend the legislation that was presented for Otsego County,
First bill.
and what you want is to have the ownership question answered.
Got one first, though.
Here's your chance.
Well, you can do it with your current assemblyman and senator. You don't have to wait till the first of the year.
It didn't work too well last time.
So what did we decide?
You know?
What did we decide?
I mean, personally, I don't know how you stay in with, I mean, Shane's looking for an answer. How do you stay on it with one other? I don't know how you do.
Right.
We need-
Yes or yes or
we
no
need a
answer. I
consensus
gave
of the
mine.
board.
I gave mine.
A clear one. We have two.
I think it would have been
No.
a tougher decision if somebody already didn't get out, but somebody's already out. I
Thinking.
mean, I don't know.
Not out, but they're thinking.
We also got to decide what we're going to do if we get out.
I mean, it's unfortunate that it's going so good.
It is.
I mean, it's unfortunate, but how
Olga
you
said she's had enough.
That might be-
No garbage.
Go ahead, Shane.
When we asked economic development to do that, they have the resolution there. I asked them to hold off until we had a firm, clear, we do still have a good chunk of the board here. I wanted a very firm, clear, if anybody in this room is thinking, well, in 2014, maybe we should stick in there and hope for the best, we need to know.
Yeah, speak up if you want that, right?
So what I'm asking is everybody speak up and say their opinion. If they do not want to stay beyond 2014, I need it clear. We need it clear now. And we need it clear for a couple of reasons. We need to be clear with Schoharie County. We don't have to be their babysitter in any form or shape
We
or
shouldn't
way.
mislead them either.
That's right.
It's not
So it
fair.
needs to be clear from this board what we want. Dominic has said his opinion, Mike said his opinion, John says his opinion. I'm pretty sure everybody knows my opinion. If you don't, my opinion is in 2014, the way it's going, we need to be out. I also don't believe that we should agree to Otsego's terms at all. I believe we should hold them right to the fire on this and not let them pull what they're doing, and we can. They all have to agree in the party that they actually leave, and I don't think we should let them have that happen. But I did not want economic development coming with the solid waste plan until we in this room made a firm decision, because it's always wishy-washy. So what I would like is tonight that everybody in this room tells their opinion. If there's someone here that does not want to make that opinion known, I don't know what you're doing.
But in all honesty, can it be on parallel tracks anyways?
It is on a parallel track
I
to
mean-
solid waste.
So.
But we
the thing
can't
is
go any
that-
farther
No, but
without saying we want it, that we are intending at the end of this service agreement to be out.
it's better to have a plan on the shelf.
So that's what we're looking at. And that's what I'm hoping for.
John?
But I need a clear decision to do that.
Nobody wants to speak.
Hang on.
Not only does Montgomery County need a clear decision, but Mosa needs a clear decision.
They need a clear
And
decision.
Montgomery County as well.
And so does
For
Schoharie.
a multitude of reasons, because if you decide you want to stay, we're going to have to negotiate a hauling and disposal contract. We're going to have to
Embarrassing.
look at renewing the swamp through Mosa. There's a lot of things that Mosa has to do if you decide you want to stay. If you're deciding you're getting it out, completely different avenue that we're having to take. But we're not going to do both.
No.
I don't have time to do both. Dennis doesn't have time to do both. We need an answer. It's what we want. We just want an answer.
I think you got it.
Herbie, if you could just go around the committee first and ask individually, and then go to the people that are in the committee, then we have a clear response with no questions.
John Quackenbush.
Yeah, unless there's something that we're missing here, you have to, I don't see any other way but to say, we're done,
Out.
you know?
There are other options, but we're not talking about them.
Greg?
Mm-hmm.
I would vote to go out.
Jeff?
I would vote to go out unless something drastically changed.
Brian?
Oh.
John?
Abstain.
As chairman, you have a choice.
No. Parker.
Out. Unless something drastically changes.
Keep going right on around the room.
With that.
Dominic?
There are other options at which we have not talked about, you know, and they have to do with assets of MOSA, you know what I mean, and privatization and other things that we could be doing. I don't know where the forum is in order to discuss it because we're not discussing it. And so the only option that's left for me, because these other options aren't coming on the table, is to get out. But we have assets in this county that could be used to make money for us. Called transfer stations.
Larry?
Well, I agree with Dominic. I don't see any, in 2014, you're going to get most of that garbage, got to go someplace, or you're going to pile up in front of your house. I have to, there's options out there, like privatization is one that I really believe in looking into, but we can go back into the business ourselves and run our own transfer stations, whatever. There has to be something out there to choose.
To let somebody else run the transfer stations.
Privatize the transfer stations. I'll look into it, but I have to have something in front of me here to say, well, if we're going to get out of most of that day, tomorrow, the garbage doesn't stop coming. So we have to have something in place.
Who for us is going to work these options?
Mike, your opinion?
I already gave you my opinion. Oh. You did 2 votes tonight. Sorry,
Shane.
twice.
You got everybody in the room, right?
Yes.
Okay, here's the thing. Now that we have a consensus of the board that we're out in 2014, now we have a better understanding of that everybody in this room wants it. Now we have the option to look at the other things because the dissolution or the distribution of the assets is part of that legislation. And it's there in front of us. So now that we know that everybody's on the same page that's in the room right now, we can go on with that discussion. Until we have everybody on the same page, what's the point? So now Ken can come with a solid waste plan next month. And we can discuss those options. We can discuss them with what's left to MOSA, and we can go on in the future. But we needed a clear decision what we wanted to do for 2014. And now we have it. Now let's go Harry County ask. We can at least say this is a consensus of the board, which is important, or we're going nowhere. I'm done, Harry. Thanks for the opportunity to put it on the other.
Any other?
I got one other question. I want to know what his response was when you sent the letter about the sales tax.
Oh, the response from Ann saying, did I read it here?
No.
The response was simple. The response was that while she would, oh, my phone's dead. While she would like to meet and discuss, at this point, the city is not going to be in any way, shape, or form agreeable to changing the agreement. That's basically what it was. She would discuss it, she would sit and talk about it, but they were not in a position or...
She's speaking for the common council?
She was speaking for the mayor and the county council. But she's willing to talk. What's that?
She stated that on the
Yeah,
radio.
she's definitely, yeah, I think she gave me the response before the radio, but she was definitely willing to sit down and talk, but there wasn't going to be anything else.
Any other?
No.
Motion?
Aye.